On the edge of the world lies the most dangerous city in all of Project Zomboid, filled with giant skyscrapers, stadiums, huge malls, and amongst it all, endless overwhelming hordes of the undead. So finding a safe haven amongst all of this chaos is not as easy as you might think. But let's say you had the means to land atop one of these roofs and build a home far above the ground, one you could reinforce and use as a base of operations for your ventures into the infested streets. Now that was a bit more like it. So if you want to join me on this journey, please subscribe and enjoy. Also, a special thank you to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. My goals for this journey were simple. First, I would find a location that I could commandeer for my new home. Second, I would build a resilient base atop the roof, one that would give me visibility of the area and security. And finally, I would use this base to launch an assault on the city, with my primary goal being getting closer to this, the most monstrous of all the Louisville skyscrapers. Admittedly, I had a little bit of unfinished business, but we had to take things one step at a time, because I was currently living out of a beautiful self-sustaining home inside of Project Zomboid's newest addition, the airport. Now, to be clear, this home was nice, but its location, and particularly its distance from a lot of the hotspots of the city, made it far too inconvenient if I planned to continue my mission of taking back the world from the undead. And I admit this was an ambitious goal, but I'm nothing if not over-ambitious. So over the first few days of this chapter, I would be fully focused on preparing for the trip into the city to locate the perfect site for my rooftop base. At this point, I had a few key necessities to tick off the checklist, because unfortunately, this new patch had once again vaporized some of my resources, particularly all my ammo and most of my guns were lost. That would make it a little hard to do anything productive in Louisville, but I was never without a plan. So step one, I needed to take control of this strip of shops on the outskirts of the city and acquire whatever guns and ammo I could to help me achieve my goals. I spent time adorning the numerous baseball bats from the warehouse with sharp nails. Since I was short on decent melee weapons, these would do the trick in keeping my damage output high. Now fortunately, I had actually managed to retain some ammo that I'd been holding in my trailer, so the initial attempt at the gun store would hopefully go down a little bit smoother. If I did run out of the ammo I had, at the very least the bats would be a good backup plan. Since my farm had begun to prosper with all the rain, I spent time harvesting all the crops that were blooming. This didn't take too long, but did create another problem for me, because my little fridge was not exactly capable of storing the amount of food I was producing. So for now, I would be forced to store them in my favorite spot, the floor. With that dealt with for now, I wasted no time in heading towards my first challenge. I took my fastest car and a decent sized trailer and headed towards the strip mall, hoping that maybe, just maybe, it would be a quiet area and I could sneak in and out of the gun store with little fuss. Unfortunately, that wasn't exactly the case. As I drove through the street, it became clear that looting these shops would require a fair amount of work clearing the immediate company. Nonetheless, no matter how I approach this issue, planning in Project Zomboid is not my primary strength. In my mind, planning doth butter no parsnips. So instead of heading back home, I careened back through the main street and parked up towards the entrance, beginning my assault. Amongst the puddles and rain, I let loose on the shambling horde, swinging my nail-adorned bat until each zombie head evoked a delicious crunch. Admittedly, I enjoyed this a little too much. After struggling with muscle strain and exhaustion, my character was finally beginning to get the hang of this. But after clearing the 10 or 20 zombies that approached, my caveman brain decided that this was no longer scratching the itch. So I instead opted for a far more dangerous approach, using a gun. Now, as you probably know by now, clearing with guns is effective but risky. All the noise you make will surely attract every zombie in the area. But in this case, I was kind of banking on it, because I didn't anticipate that this little strip mall would be particularly congested. Certainly not as much as the challenges I've faced prior. But my ammo was unfortunately limited, and after clearing a few hundred zombies, I opted instead to go back to melee as I continued my approach. Fortunately, I was able to move the car right up to where the hunting store was, which meant I'd at least cleared a large amount of the zombies in my way. From there, I grabbed the bat and went to town. At first, I had aroused a lot of attention, but I was able to trail the horde into the open field and duck between the trees, which allowed me to split them into smaller, more manageable groups. And on top of that, I was even able to rest a few times to clear my exhaustion. In reality, exhaustion was one of the biggest reasons melee fighting is so difficult in this build, because even though I was fairly proficient in the weapons I used, I could still only kill 6 or 7 zombies before my my exhaustion built up, making it harder to continue. And this was part of the reason why I was looting this gun store, because doing this melee fighting against thousands of zombies was a lot less feasible. So I would need the guns to acquire my rooftop. Well, potentially, you know, we'll get to that when we get to it. But as the sun started its descent at around 5 p.m, I was able to make my way back to the car, free of any following undead. And with what time I had left before nightfall, I began my pillaging effort. Now, I was pretty tired at the time. Not my character, no, the brain operating it. So I didn't really note down exactly what I was taking in, but I knew it was a lot. More than enough to spend some time clearing the surrounding neighborhood if I had to. But I didn't want to get caught in the dark, and I was getting pretty drowsy. And this time I'm referring to my character, so basically both myself and my mini-me were losing focus. And if you're wondering why I'm consistently pointing out how tired I am, it's because I was about to make a mistake that I would be paying for weeks to come. Oh no. Oh no, dude. Are you kidding me? Oh, I don't even know what I was doing. I don't know why I was going that fast. That's a deep wound and a fracture, man. That deep wound is going to take so long. I got to pull these shards out and stitch it up. And a fracture. Oh, this is going to suck. I honestly don't even know why I was driving that fast. I was so locked in to dodging zombies that I didn't think that making one slight turn would be the death of me. Ugh. For your reference, here's a list of injuries you want to avoid in Project Zomboid. Neck wounds, head wounds, burn wounds, fractures, breaks, and deep wounds. The first one or two can be the death of you, but the last three are just annoying as hell in that they take ages to heal and they require stitches, splints, or some other type of treatment. So managing to get 2 out of 3 at this point in my adventure was not exactly ideal. Nevertheless, adversity only makes you stronger. At least that's what I kept telling myself as I began piling vegetables into trays to prepare some roasts. Keeping myself full of food would somewhat help my healing, at least for the time being. Fortunately, I had been pretty quick to stitch up my deep wound, always making sure to carry around tweezers and a needle for this very occurrence. But I hadn't yet managed to put together a splint for my hand fracture. The next morning, I foraged for a short while in the garden, thinking I would find a stick. But in reality, I actually didn't even need a stick. So once I realized a plank would do the trick, I quickly prepared the splint and attached it to my hand. To be honest, I hadn't really had to tackle a fracture in Project Zomboid before. But once I got my head around it and the splint was set up, it alleviated the immediate issues. And in reality, this was a setback, but not one that I was gonna let derail my plan. After all, once I'd looted the remainder of the gun store and any valuable stuff nearby, I would have everything I'd need to head to the city and find a roof to settle into. But knowing that one trip between these homes wouldn't be enough to ship everything I'd need, I had to make sure that my home was set up first and that I had plenty of reserves. While nursing my wounds, I spent a few days trying to tick off a couple of things that were missing from my airport base. I at least wanted to let my wounds partially heal before I returned to the strip mall. So instead, I addressed a different pressing issue: a pile of fresh vegetables on my disgusting floor. I headed to the warehouse nearby and collected an extra generator and a large white fridge. And after a bit of shifting around in my kitchen, the fridge was installed, giving me a little bit of extra room to work with. In the evening, I headed over to the car park, crossing my wasteland of dead bodies from my last adventure, and found a suitable car to use in place of my now brutalized friend from earlier. During the remaining hours of the day, I set up some storage for the guns and ammunition I had brought home with me, and some extra boxes to allow for any more I could gather. Frankly, this wasn't really normal for me. Placing boxes, labeling them, putting stuff in them, the floor gremlin inside rejected the sheer notion of it. But I had evolved across my months in the apocalypse. I was civilized and all that shit now. Like I'd mentioned though, I wasn't gonna let my wounds hold me back. So after a long night's sleep, I returned to the shopping strip, prepared to finish what I had previously started. At first, I used a pistol I'd acquired in my first run, intending to try out different firearms to see what I felt most attuned to. And with a horde like this, some heavy machinery would really come in handy, which is exactly why this video is sponsored by War Thunder. War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game I've ever played, and you can play it for free on PC, consoles, and even mobile devices. Take control of over 2,500 unique tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships from around the world, ranging from historical biplanes and tanks to modern fighter jets. Personally, I feel that War Thunder has some of the most realistic graphics and sound effects for a vehicle combat game, and because of of that, the community has over 70 million players to compete in epic PvP battles. There really is no better game for fans of military history. The game features a very in-depth vehicle customization system, where every individual component has been crafted to react to enemy fire and is susceptible to damage. In addition, their built-in X-ray view gives you real-time feedback showing you which parts of the vehicle and/or crew were affected by incoming attacks. You can even immerse yourself in War Thunder's authentic visual customization, an extensive system that offers a plethora of camouflages, historical markings, and decorations for a wide array of vehicles, including those crafted by the community. Play War Thunder for free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and mobile now using the link in the pinned comment or video description. New and returning players on PC and console that haven't played in 6 months will also receive a massive bonus pack across all platforms, netting you multiple premium vehicles, an exclusive vehicle decorator, Eagle of Valor, 100,000 Silver Lions, and even 7 days of a premium account. This offer is available for a limited time only, so don't miss out. Thank you, War Thunder, for sponsoring this video. After funneling through most of my ammo, I opted to go back to the bat. With the strip mostly clear, I was able to reverse the trailer right up to the opening I created in the wall, which would allow me to efficiently unload everything. And I mean everything. I intended to leave no stone unturned. I even covered up the alternate entrance, allowing me comfort and safety to fill my trailer to the brim with every single bullet and gun in these shelves. After half a day of transferring items, I had cleared the hunting shop completely. So with the leftover daylight, I opted to check out the neighboring stores. First, I grabbed a combo washer dryer, which was something I'd been hoping to find for a while, since my clothes were so caked in mud, dirt, and blood that I resembled a walking pile of corpses. And on the other side was a gas station and a supermarket. To be clear, it wasn't that I needed anything in particular, but you never know what you might find, and any seasonings or spices would help buff up my calories for the rooftop trip. In addition, any non-perishables, of which I found a few, would help with keeping a stockpile of food at my rooftop fortress, since keeping anything that required refrigerating would require a generator, and making that much noise in the most dangerous city in Project Zomboid, not a great idea. I returned home with trailer and trunk chock full of valuable materials and resources, my long voyage drawing ever closer. And when I tell you that all this preparation was extremely useful in the long run, I don't say it lightly. My time within the city would be chaos from start to finish, as you'll come to see. The next morning, as I was cherishing my last days at the airport, I mulled over my next steps in entering the city. I kind of want to try the Magnum, but I feel like it's just a mistake. Let's try it. Should give every gun a try, you know? There might be some hidden gems. The Magnum strikes me as one that might just be good. Well, we have no shortage of ammo now, but I think the problem is, like, it's easy to say that, but like what our goals are in the future? What are you doing, mate? You can't be here. This is off limits. What our plans are demand like an exceptional amount. We're talking thousands of zombies. Like thousands. I've killed 3,690. Like I would have to kill more. That's the scale of the problem we have. I don't know what the best move will be. After reworking my kitchen storage with an extra fridge and shifting all my loot inside, it was time for one last looting run. See, on my first run into the strip mall, as I drove past the undead, I had spotted something in the corner of my eye. And admittedly, it may have been a bit greedy of me, but if this fire station even had a few more axes, I would be absolutely insane not to try and acquire them. My entire character build was centered around axe proficiency, so I opted to make one attempt at heading across, stopping on the way to collect a separate dryer and washer, since for some reason the combo washer dryer was not working for me. And this would have been an exceptional plan had I not given in to even more greed and ducked into a tool store between the two, because I was about to encounter a little more resistance than anticipated after a few wayward shots with a Magnum. Where the hell did all they come from? What the f? Are you kidding me? What the hell? Is that all out of? What was that out of? Where did they come from? Dude, what? Suffice it to say, I was not in the business of wasting all my newly acquired ammo on clearing 1,000 zombies that came out of literally nowhere. So instead, I was now on the clock, parking my car and racing into the fire station, hoping by some miracle that I would get in and out before any serious trouble approached. We gotta be really quick about this. I do not have a lot of time. Fire axe. Nice, fire axes, okay. Oh yeah, this is worth, hold on. I'm gonna have to grab every single one I can, even if it makes me overweight, and get the heck out of here, dude. This is gonna be serious business. Oh my, oh, there's so many. Oh my gosh. There's like 20 or 30 of them just waiting at the front right now, man. We got to get this in our bag and go. This was so worth. So this was a worthwhile risk. These axes would make a huge difference in my efforts in Louisville. And speaking of which, the time had finally come. After returning to my airport base, I had everything I'd need to attempt a first run into the city. And I would certainly be back here down the line for numerous reasons, but for now, the groundwork was laid. I spent some time finally cleaning my clothes and my skin, since things may get a little bit messy from here and I deserved a fresh visual start at least. I headed upstairs to where I can now introduce you to a good friend of mine. See, if you haven't been following my journey up to this point, don't worry, I'll fill in the gaps. In the far corner of this airport, I had found this beautiful monster, and after taking it out for its first trip a few weeks prior, I now felt comfortable enough to take it into the belly of the beast. And to be clear, while this does function fairly well, it is by no means a native addition to the game. Tread carefully, fellow travelers. Following in my footsteps could lead to many bugs. Allow me to venture forth on your behalf. Let me remind you of my first goal. The first step in my grand plan was to take this helicopter and venture deep within the city, with the primary goal being a rooftop that is clear, defendable, but most importantly nearby the dead center of town, where the skyscrapers lie. Now, I didn't really know if a rooftop like that existed, but I had a hunch I'd find a few functional options. As I blazed a trail through the air, I laid eyes on the outskirts of the city. While from this high up I wouldn't be able to make out zombies, I could estimate just based off the building density that I was paving a path over not hundreds, but thousands of them. If I've learned anything in my journeys thus far, it's that large buildings hold way more undead than you think. So many that it's honestly pretty traumatic. So I was expecting plenty of trouble as I neared the more congested parts of the city. But after some navigating around through the buggy chaos of this flying beast, I found the perfect place. The home of my future. The home of my rooftop fortress. This building checked all the boxes. It stood in the block just across from the most dangerous buildings in Project Zomboid. It had a secure flat rooftop with a little enclosed space, an easy to use spot as a temporary shelter while I built up my defenses. And it even had a lower edge, allowing me to drop a sheet rope down and take control of the lower floors. Since I brought a sledgehammer with me just in case, I spent some time breaking down the fixtures that obstructed my beautiful clear blueprint. Eventually, I would build further structures on the roof itself, and doing so would require a clear area. With that complete and a list of requirements now in my head for this rooftop fortress, I hopped in the helicopter and began returning home. As much as I would like to just hop off the roof and pillage all I'd need from the houses nearby, the reality is that zombie density in this city would make it almost impossible. Surrounding me were thousands of zombies in the neighboring buildings alone, as you'll come to see. The most primary necessities I needed for the base were some sheet ropes and a baking pan. The sheet ropes as I'd need a reliable way to get down so I can potentially construct some very dangerous stairs. And the baking pan because I wanted to make myself a cake. Because I deserved it. I deserve it, right? Right? So based on my location, the best place nearby the airport for me to acquire sheets was the larger residential area nearby the strip mall I'd cleared earlier. Fortunately, it was just far enough away that the horde I'd awakened probably hadn't wandered close enough to the housing, allowing me easy access with not too much adversity. After sleeping through the night, in the early hours of the morning, I took my Humvee and trailer down the road, past where I'd launched myself into a tree, and down the side road towards the housing. I know where I want to go. I need to build a little forward base on the rooftop. In order to do that, I need plenty of supplies to take over there, and I also need probably more ammunition to start kind of clearing out that space near the ultimate goal, which is the skyscraper. The skyscraper. Yeah, it's a bit of a shambles right now. Things aren't exactly going smoothly, and I'm just trying to make the best of a bad situation. I mean, I'm still on track to do everything, but obviously I injured my arms, which doesn't make it easier to address like lots of zombies, that's for sure. And I might just get injured right now and killed. But yeah, it's making it hard to melee because, of course, meleeing without functional arms is at best tricky. So yeah, such is the kind of problem that I'm tackling at the moment. Yeah, I could pop out a gun and start shooting, but that's probably not going to end too well either. Nor do I have a gun on me right now. Yes, let's just say I'm missing functional arms. It would be really nice to have not crashed, and the main reason I crashed is because I was recording when I was really tired. I just wasn't paying attention. Stop me if you've heard that one before, because it does happen a lot, actually. That's a survivor's head. That backpack? That backpack might be better than mine, and I've been stuck with this fucking hiking pack for a long time. I deserve a little pick-me-up, don't I? Military. Gotta be better than mine. I've been promoted from my big hiking backpack. Oh, truly magnificent. What's in here? Oh, a bunch of food. Oh man, books aplenty. You know what? I will take the gas mask. I actually lost one a long time ago because of Mr. Brollo getting vaporized in an update. So that's not too bad, all things considered. It'll make me a little bit uncomfortable, but I've dealt with worse things. Overall, this trip to the housing area was pretty much going as well as one could hope. To start with, I'd finally acquired an upgrade to my backpack. And on top of that, I'd obtained a gas mask, which would help with the constant corpse fumes I'd been running into. Once I'd cleared the local population, I began searching through houses. At first, I found a bookcase full of books and magazines, some of which were missing from my collection. This first house seemed to be a survivor house, which meant it would hold more loot than usual, as you can tell by the density of items in the bookcases, cabinets, and the like. In the back storage room, I even acquired an extra M14, which was a fine addition to my arsenal. After clearing through some wandering zombies, the next house had the exact baking pan I was after. And between this house and the last, I also acquired around 5 sheets, which would be more than enough for my sheet rope at the rooftop base. With that in mind, I didn't waste much time, as my priority was to return to the task at hand and not get distracted. After my last crash, I'm just driving straight through them. I don't care. Once I arrived home, I moved to the next step of my plan, particularly in relation to acquiring materials for building. I guess the question at this point would be the base on top of the rooftop, like defenses, and I don't really need to, but I probably will anyway, build defenses out of timber. So step one is going to be to get a shitload of wood, which is going to give me time to heal up my arms as well, which, look, however you want to look at it, is probably a good thing. So yeah, let's stick to that for now. Let's keep it simple and we'll go from there. Now, admittedly, I did get slightly distracted trying to feed my fat ass, toying around with preparing a cake and spending way too long figuring out how to actually turn the cake preparation into the cake itself. But once I got the hang of it, I was able to load this thing up with an obnoxious amount of candy, so much so that it would be heaping on the calories with a single bite. And while that was cooking, I prepared a few more roast meals, some to store and some to hold on me. Though they lacked any kind of protein beyond eggs, they would at least keep me satiated in my next few tasks. After sleeping through the night, I moved forward with my plan to acquire timber for the rooftop base, heading outside the airport to a forest area nearby. And after half a day of chopping down trees and loading them into the trunk, I had enough to make decent headway on my constructions in the city. So I loaded everything into the helicopter: the timber, some non-perishable food, a bunch of my fire axes, the sheet rope, and of course, more importantly than anything, I brought Mr. Brollo along, my trusty companion on this journey, who was definitely the same Mr. Brollo and didn't have to be spawned back in because the update yet again deleted him. You guys have to understand, there's a lot of lore here, it's too difficult to summarize. Anyway, with all my stuff loaded up, I set off back towards the rooftop, this time for a more extended stay in the city itself. Here we are. Now, let's see if we can't throw a sheet rope over here. We might not be able to be honest. It might just be a visual tile, so I might have to finagle it a little bit. But first, let's get Mr. Brollo down, mostly because he's heavy. There you go, Mr. Brollo. I spent time unloading all the loot from the helicopter. Inside the little enclosed space, I placed my prisoner bed, which I had spare at the airport. It wasn't much, but it would do the job for now. In addition, I built a few crates just to store some belongings. In reality, I'd probably end up storing more stuff on the ground, but if one pretends to be civilized long enough, then maybe it will catch on. With careful movement in mind, I built a window frame on the edge of the building to lob a sheet rope over. I wasn't 100% sure, but these half walls were likely visual only tiles, meaning they didn't have collision. So walking around this rooftop could end very poorly if I misstepped. But before long, I finally had a functional sheet rope, allowing me access to the building below, the streets, and the zombies that I'd yet to encounter. And trust me when I say, you don't see them yet, but when you see them, you'll really see them. First, I hopped into the first room I could access and set up an extra checkpoint, placing a wall, a window frame, and a door. This was sort of superfluous, but at the same time, it would allow me an extra point of safety. The zombies would likely attack the door and alert me to their their presence. I had hypothesized that based on my understanding of the pathfinding, I could use the next window along to access the building and build a staircase within this primary room, forcing them to instead choose to pass through the player construction and allow me safe access to get in behind them. It's really complicated, don't worry, you'll see what I mean later. This plan was all good and fine, except I faced a fair bit of adversity to say the least. With the sound of building, a lot of the zombies from within the office flocked upstairs, causing me a lot of trouble in getting the last pieces of my checkpoint down. But eventually I was able to push them back and take control of at least this floor. My priority was to take control of this place one floor at a time, and so far it was taking some work, but it was panning out. Once I had the checkpoint set up, I barricaded the windows so that I could see outside, but the zombies couldn't instantly get in without alerting me. Now that I had a safe haven atop the roof and a way to access the building somewhat safely, I dealt with some more monotonous tasks, particularly sawing up each and every log I'd brought with me, which took ages. Once that was complete, I knew before I could continue that I would have to properly secure this building. I wanted to make sure that there weren't any huge hordes on the lower floors that could breach my checkpoint easily without me being able to stop it. So I pushed down to the lower floors one room at a time, eliminating any undead adversaries in my way. There wasn't a whole lot worth looting in this place, at least not anything that I desperately needed, but it was still pretty cagey clearing this place out, and I didn't feel like boarding up every window and door would be a worthwhile use of planks at this time. I was very confident that boarding up every entrance would not be worthwhile. Take note of this because it will come into play later. With the building cleared out, it was time to open my heart to the world. That is to say, it was time to build a stairway to the roof. Now, I can totally understand the train of thought that says never build a staircase because it will allow the undead to reach your roof fortress. And the truth is, I could absolutely build a bunch of sheet rope access points and have a rooftop base that could not be accessed at all by the zombie hordes. I could make this completely inaccessible, unassailable, and basically cheese the entire game altogether. But that ain't how I fucking roll. Around here, risk is the spice of life, and I wasn't going to abuse the system and take away any risk at all. So I essentially built a pathway through which I could absolutely get screwed. Now it was my job to keep it secure. But now though, I did place a barricaded door at the top since it wasn't my primary access point. It was safe to say that my first goal had officially been completed. I had found and commandeered a rooftop within the city itself. That directed my eyes towards my next goals, and in truth, I would weave in between them over the next days and weeks. Before we get ahead of ourselves, let me unpack my situation in a way that makes more sense. Remember, I said I had a longer goal on the horizon to attack the city, and part of that was some of the most dangerous buildings in the dead center of it, the skyscrapers. Well, this rooftop was one block away from those very skyscrapers. Now, in reality, I could walk across the street and start attacking them right now, but if I did that, I would awaken the thousands of zombies in each building respectfully, and they would completely congest both my pathway and potentially make their way to my home, ending my rooftop fortress. So how could I cheese this in a way that wasn't totally cheese, but was kinda a little bit cheese? Well, what if I could build a safe pathway from my rooftop fortress to a building within the skyscraper's blocks? And what if I could then work my way through every zombie in that building, removing access to the lower floors, and essentially have a giant safe spot right next to my long-term destination? This is a plan I would call the Spiffo HQ Revitalization Project, or SCORPA. And that's an acronym I will not be using ever again. So in order to get to Spiffo HQ, I would first carve a floating path to the church beside me, and then across the road to the HQ itself, where I would begin my assault. And all the while, I'd be doing upgrades to my base, which isn't much of a base right now, but we'll get there. Across the first few hours of the first day at my new rooftop base, I built out the path from my roof to the church on the other side of the alley. And while I did spot what appeared to be flooring here, I wasn't prepared to risk falling, so I kept building my timber path through it. A fall from this height was pretty much instant death, no pressure. And as an added layer of security, I built a door frame at the entrance and headed down into the office to grab some door hinges and a doorknob before completing the door itself and continuing the path across the side of the church. Well, these planks are going farther than I thought they would. Never mind, just run out. Yeah, there's gonna be hundreds, thousands in there, man. So key things I need on a trip back. I need more wood, obviously. I've got water, I got food. I'll probably make some roasted food. Enough wood to get me to the Spiffo, and then I can start to kind of clear out that. And then we've got something that'll work on our hands. So I needed to do a supply run back home. Like I'd mentioned, my arms were seemingly doing a lot better than before. So once I'd arrived back at the airport, I removed my bandages and checked my injuries. And fortunately, not only was my hand healed completely, but my forearm deep wound had healed, leaving me with just a scratch. This made fighting with a melee weapon now a little bit more feasible again. While I was at the airport, I spent a little bit of time cleaning up my farm, removing all the dead crops and replanting some of the more essential produce to keep my stockpile up. I wasn't short on food at the moment, but winter was getting ever closer, so I needed to be prepared. After cleaning my clothes and washing myself off, I hopped back in the helicopter, this time opting not to get timber at the base because I had a better plan. See, every time I traveled back and forth to the rooftop, I was crossing over a dense forest with giant trees, so it made way more sense for me to look for a clearing, land the helicopter, and harvest timber there, where each tree would equate to more logs. And this worked extremely effectively. I only had to deal with 2 or 3 zombies, and I got my hands on plenty of logs, filling the helicopter trunk to the brim. By the time I returned to the rooftop, the sun was still up, so I spent the last few hours of the day unloading every single log and sawing them into planks. And there were so many logs that this was a process I continued into the morning, leaving me with just over 200 planks, ready to go. And with those planks, I decided to finally make some additions to my rooftop fortress, because it wasn't much of a fortress right now. To start off with, I built the framing for a walled space surrounding the landing pad for my helicopter. I filled in the frames mostly with wooden walls, but left a few windows on each corner for access points. I wasn't 100% sure what layout I wanted this place to take because I still needed helicopter access, and I didn't want to take away the open air feel of the place. If I just sealed it all in, then I guess there wouldn't be much of a rooftop vibe going on. Mr. Brollo watched from inside the wall while I placed a staircase, a shiny real staircase and not a log one, thanks to my new carpentry levels, and began the work on a floor layer above, particularly on the inside of the wall, to allow me sight over the wall for down the line. And it would give me a place to use if I needed to evade any wayward zombies. Not that any zombies would get up here, right? Right? I was interrupted by the sound of banging on a barricade, and this is exactly why I made the checkpoint. As I climbed down the rope and entered the alternate window, I was able to duck behind the checkpoint and clear out the zombies that were causing a ruckus. This was light work with my arms back in good shape, and soon enough I was able to return to working on the rooftop base.
We're gonna need more wood for the path to the Spiffo HQ, but we'll have the fortress essentially done on top of the building, so that is gonna help a lot. Can I just walk over this, or can I? Oh, there's a lot to unpack from that. So this just gives me a lot more options. If somehow they follow me on the path back and they get through all the hurdles that they'd have to, this gives me now the option of just kind of coming up the stairs and playing off this and being able to drop down. It's a little bit more flexible. None of this stuff is optimal. I don't play to be optimal. I play because I like killing zombies, so I'm not gonna think too much about whether it's able to be better. I'm just gonna think about whether it is cool and I like it and I vibe it.
Now that the outer structure of my base was complete, I spent time sawing the rest of the logs to continue the bridge across to Spiffo HQ, and after a few more hours of magically traversing across thin air, I reached a stopping point. Now, one might say that breaking through here would be easy enough, but in reality, there were a disgusting amount of zombies inside. Most buildings in this area of the city were congested with hundreds, if not thousands of zombies, so I'd have to be extremely cautious in approaching the next steps.
All right, is the current plan. So our pathway across is complete. The idea is going to be, and it's not a good one, but it is an idea. I'm going to go down the path. I'm going to pop open the wall. I'm going to wait and see if any come out, because running in would be a bad idea. The overarching goal is to try and chop out the stairs, because if I can chop out the stairs, I can remove access from the bottom floor, which is what I want to do. That way I can secure the top area and then go from there. That's the general plan. Hey, it sounds spicy and fun. We can take control of that building, and once we've taken control of that building, we'll have our launching place for what's next, and then we can build this place up a little bit, get a couple more facilities set up here, and go from there. Yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. It's not a good plan, but it is a plan.
Now that the framework was complete and the base was, well, it was a base with room for improvement, it was time to go to war. Something I'd been holding off on for as long as I could, because frankly, I have bad memories from my last experience fighting in this area in Build 42. But my condition was good, my arms were healed, my weight was steady and not over or under what it needed to be. My resources were plentiful, at least for staying here temporarily. It was time to break into Spiffo HQ and uncover the secrets within.
All right, let's do this thing. But as ready as I'm ever gonna be. All right. Tell me there's a floor in there. There's not. Okay. This is now tricky. I guess we'll find out, but I don't think there is. I think that's the second floor. So we need some more planks. Yeah, see, that's just from the noise I made destroying it. It's attracted all of them there. God, this is gonna end so badly, man. Such a bad idea. I'm just gonna do this just in case I have to like move around a little bit. Holy shit, there's a lot in there. Dude, should I just start firing on the... They can't get to me. I could just fire through this window. Oh man, I'm gonna have to do it. I'm gonna have to do it. What choice do I have? It sounds like too much fun. I mean, yeah, maybe there'll be way too many and we'll never be able to take over this building, but they gotta die anyway, man.
So this entry point was not planned in advance. That is to say, I had somehow stumbled across an incredible opportunity. Because of the lack of flooring on the inside of this wall and the extremely convenient positioning of this glass window, I had a sightline to the inside of the building and the ability to set up a platform separated by one block of space. Meaning I could essentially let loose with a gun, attract as many zombies as possible to this window space and pick them off, with any excess zombies dropping down to the floors below.
Perfect. Oh my god, it's foolproof. Look at them, they're just falling down. And now the last piece of the puzzle, right? We aggravate them. Oh, this is devious. Oh, here we go. Oh, it's easier than I thought it was gonna be. Oh, bro, this is so devious. Oh, man. Yeah, jump through, why don't you? Oh, I should be wearing my gas mask when I'm doing this. Oh my god, that's going to be a disgusting pile. Hold on. I think, unfortunately, the gas mask makes me worse at shooting, but whatever. It is what it is. It's kind of making me a lot worse at shooting. This might not be worth. Might just have to go without it. Target practice. Oh yeah. Oh no. Okay. Everything's fine. Holy shit. I wonder if that's killing... I can't even tell if it's killing them or they're just coming right back up.
Now, I'm not proud of many of my achievements in Project Zomboid, but stumbling across this spot and the success that it brought me in clearing a disgusting amount of undead from this building, this was a matter of pride. See, not only did I start clearing the zombies from the building, but zombies from nearby streets started to funnel in, climb the stairs, and position themselves perfectly for the slaughter.
Dude, I could do this with the skyscraper, you know. I could just build a pathway outside the window and just start killing. I mean, you have to choose somewhere. There's no way you take it on, like... I mean, it's just you're talking about weeks of work, really.
And as if that wasn't enough, when the population at this window started to dry up, I built a floor across and recognized that I was able to reach another window, a window that directly sat opposite the staircase, meaning I could pick them off as they come up the stairs. This was a disgusting but necessary evil, as I unloaded magazine after magazine into the shambling hordes. As soon as they entered my sight, I would pick them off, one by one. At night, I would return to the rooftop base and sleep, refilling on ammo and food. And in the morning, I'd return to the Spiffo HQ, continuing the onslaught, popping head after head. And after spending so long training my aiming up over the past months, I can't lie, this was very satisfying. But after a while, the zombies coming up the stairs started to dwindle. They'd appear in hordes every now and then, but felt like a little bit of a waste of time to keep fighting like this, and I felt like I needed a change. So I decided on a really bad idea. I wanted to, at least for a while, take this fight to the streets. Now fortunately, through my adventures, I had acquired both heaps of excess fuel and the ability to hotwire cars. So my initial thought process was to move down to the ground floor, sneak my way across to a decent condition car, and start reversing through some of the huge hordes on the streets. But as I've already touched on, this is a pretty risky plan. Even if I do kill a lot of undead, there's a risk I attract way more than I can handle. Like I said though, I had already decided on it. So despite the obvious problems, I still went ahead with it.
Oh my god. It broke my rope. Ow. I didn't even know they could do that. I was thinking as I was falling, I was like, where the hell's my rope? Okay, well, I don't have a sheet rope anymore, so... What a jerk. I didn't break anything useful, he just broke my sheet rope. Just being annoying.
And now it was an even worse plan, because I didn't have a safe way to get up to the roof without going up the stairs. The stairs that were currently blocked off. But that's a future me problem.
I know what you're thinking, it doesn't look that bad, but that's because all of them are probably in buildings, and you kill like a few, and then all of a sudden there's 100 coming out of one doorway. And that's not an exaggeration. I'm gonna be wary of my exhaustion here, same reason. Just sit down when I can. See, what's that, 6 zombies? And I'm exhausted.
At first, I meandered through the streets, picking off any wayward zombies. But after a little while picking them off with my axe, I found the exact vehicle I was after. Finally, it was time to travel to Ram Ranch, because I'd be ramming the zombies. I think you get it.
Oh my god. This is a bad idea. Raccoon, I would stay away if you know what's good for you. 50% engine. Okay. Be a little bit more careful now. 44%. Uh-oh. The fuck was that? My tire just blew. Oh shit. All right. I think we might be cooked. But I like that. Listen, we didn't build our rooftop fortress for nothing, okay? Oh my god. Oh, this is such a terrible idea. I miss my fucking airport. Ooh, now things are getting exciting, huh? And now we pull the ultimate escape. Maybe.
Yeah, it was fun, and it was a nice change, but it nearly went very wrong. Stop me if this sounds familiar, because I have a habit of this. And if that wasn't enough, after I snuck away, worriedly running up floors of the office building I lived atop, I was reminded of a small problem I had forgotten about.
Oh, I got a little... Oh, shit. Oh, shit, what have I done? Oh, no. Think about that. Yeah, I did not think about that. Please don't attract those 1,000 zombies.
And even as I read this script, I recognize I could have just jumped over the wall. So, yeah, I'm still forgetting things, even up to this point. Now, it may seem at a glance like I escaped unscathed, but remember this site, because the butterfly effect of leaving that engine on, well, you'll see. But in this case, I followed my normal strategy. When a problem appears, ignore the problem and deal with a different problem. So I turn my eyes back to Spiffo HQ.
I mean, there's still a lot, but like it's manageable. Should I have brought my sledgehammer? I probably should have, because I kind of want to try and break those stairs, because I have actually cleared out most of the ones inside of there. So if I can get in safely and break those stairs, then we're good. Then we can clear out the top of the building and we'll have full access over there. And we can worry about the rest later, you know? That's a future me problem.
Now, I had planned on breaking out the stairs heading down, but once I got past the initial window grader zombies, I realized that it would require me to go down them. So instead of doing that, since I would have to run all the way home on foot through the giant hordes I just awoke, I just broke out the floor. I broke a bunch of floor tiles in every direction from the stairs. And believe it or not, this actually did do the job. But I had underestimated just how many zombies were in these upper floors. As if I haven't mentioned how many zombies are in these buildings 20 times in these journeys.
I think I've closed it off. It's really hard to tell though. They can come from above though. I need to put my gas mask on. I'm not gonna know until they start coming from downstairs. Dude, look at the pile of them. You can't even tell what the bodies look like anymore. I have to be so careful around this area. If I fall down there, I'm cooked. I think I might insta-die, to be honest. Because I'm pretty sure that's, I mean, that's one level, but I don't even know if there's a floor on that lower bit. It's really nice that I can reach them from here, though. Oh, they're coming. Yeah, they got no way up. Do they got a way up? See, this is what I'm worried about, because there's no... Shit. Just get... I'm gonna have to, like, run up there, man. Man, I'd love to get a generator in here. That's easier said than done, unfortunately. Well, geez, it wouldn't have been hard to have some chips or something, would it?
As I checked out each individual room and found most of them to be clear, I fell into an unwarranted sense of comfort. I started to believe I had overcome the hardest challenge of this building, and soon enough, I was brought right back to reality.
Shit. I have the gun, I have the gun. If I need to shoot up here, I don't know how many more floors there are, but it's not the worst case scenario. Although this is very quickly going downhill. Jesus. Oh my god. Oh my god. I'm injured. Oh my god. That could have gone really bad. In fact, that didn't really go well. I don't know if I got... I think it might have been the window. Yeah, I should probably have learnt this by now, to be honest. There's always a lot more inside buildings than you think.
Suffice it to say that yet again, I fell victim to my own poor planning. But in my defense, such was the nature of these buildings that it was extremely hard to tell how many undead were within. I mean, just on these stairs alone, I must have killed hundreds, so either most of those had come up from the street, or there were potentially almost 1,000 zombies in this, the smallest skyscraper on the block. Yeah, not exactly the most comforting knowledge when I had planned to take on the bigger ones down the line. It was partly because of the hearing distance through buildings like this that zombies on the highest floors didn't seem to navigate down despite the amount of shooting noise earlier. But after picking off the few that did come downstairs, I decided to head back home. And as if I wasn't on edge enough, the sight outside on the street was daunting to say the least. I fired off a few extra shots inside the building just to draw some attention back to the Spiffo HQ. That way they wouldn't wander back towards my base. After all, this was the purpose for this whole plan, draw the zombies somewhere other than my humble abode. In fact, after reloading some of my magazines, I even went back to Spiffo HQ to cause some more ruckus, just for the purpose of attracting zombies in the area away from my base. There were even some watch alarms going off in the meat pile next to the stairs, which would hopefully draw zombies away from my base. If you haven't noticed the repetitive nature of my language, I'm trying to drive home a point. You would think that after all this noise and chaos in this area within hearing distance from my base, there would be no zombies within my base.
It sounds like a lot. I don't like the sound of that. Shit. That sounds like a lot. Shit. Why are they... What? Shit. They're coming through, bro. I'm fighting them up here. I got no choice. And I can't shoot, because if I shoot, I'm going to attract way more. I'm going to have to let them through. I don't want to break the door. Please don't be like... It can't be that... Never mind, the door's gone. What happened? How? Why did they all come up here? I didn't make any sound. Oh my god. Why? Why are there so many? This is such a what the fuck? Dude, what? What the fuck? They're cooking my base right now, but I can't do shit. I don't know why. Apparently 300 zombies have decided out of nowhere to just come up the building. I just need to keep resting. I need to be recovered.
And even though for a moment it looked as if I'd carved myself a safe position to defend from, things would go from bad to worse.
Now I'm drowsy. Now I'm in a real spot. Dude, what? 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 What the fuck? What? Dude, what is going on? I can't move seats. What the f has happened? All my keybinds are broken. What is going on? Oh my god. I can't bandage within the heli. Okay. Holy shit. What a shit show. Please tell me this is a roof I can land on. What the hell was all that about? Well, I guess I'll have to go back to the airport. Jesus.
This was a resounding failure from start to finish. And if my physical spiral wasn't enough, my mental spiral had already begun.
Like what, they can see me up 4 floors now and like track their way up there? All in a big group? I don't even understand. What a shit show, man. Thank God I got in the heli. My freaking fortress, man. I mean, I defended it pretty well, but like there was like 50 plus of them. Like I would have thought if that was going to be the case, I would at least have some notice about like what was going to happen. All of a sudden there's just 50 zombies on my roof from like the main building. Oh my God. I'm shocked I got out of that. I thought I was cooked. My radial menu is like cooked. None of my hotkeys are working, so I can't use the radial menu. Jesus. Thank God I have a place to come back to, man. Right. We have officially lost control of the roof. Our roof fortress has been commandeered. Jesus. They did a number on me. And it's infected as well. Awesome. Hopefully not an actual infection. I got scratched and lacerated on that arm, by the way.
So needless to say, now I was in a predicament, because the whole purpose of this trip was to build a rooftop fortress. And not only had I failed to build a fortress that was defendable, I didn't even have control of the roof. But I wasn't going to go down without a fight, because this place was a means to an end. If I couldn't at least take back the roof, then I would have no place to launch an attack on the skyscrapers. And the past few weeks of my life were all just wasted. Not today. I would not be a tree felled by the undead horde. I would go back and finish what I started. So if only for a few days, I prepared. I harvested my farm, preparing myself a new vegetable salad, because I left all my fucking pans at the... So I had a salad and some gravy. I don't know why I had gravy, but I saw I could make gravy, so I made gravy. After a long night's sleep at the airport, I was feeling refreshed, unobstructed. So I traversed to my roof and set off for revenge.
Step 1, I'm gonna get to the roof, I'm gonna land on the roof, and yeah, because I'll be able to see them before I fully land, so I'll be able to drop down, see how many there are, and then make the call. If there's not that many, I'll jump out. If there's too many, I'll have to land across, and I'll have to land on the road or something and go from the outside in. But this is gonna be no laughing matter, huh? This is not how things were supposed to go, but that's fine. Life is full of surprises, right?
At first, I tried to land atop my roof. It quickly found that things were at best problematic. Not only were there around 20 zombies on the roof, but they'd torn through most of my walls and defenses, and I could hear even more on the lower floors. But after an attempted street landing made me aware that there was some climbing over and falling down, I attempted to land again on the roof in the hopes that I could pull a hit and run. However, as I hit the few outside my helicopter, it became clear to me that my injury from the night prior had done a lot of damage to my swinging abilities. For a while, I persevered, playing around the remaining windows and trying to abuse their pathfinding abilities. But with each swing, I grew more and more exhausted, with nowhere to rest. So as much as I didn't want to, I was eventually forced to flee with the helicopter once again, if only to recover my energy and treat my various conditions. But now I landed atop the roof opposite me, which I believe was a community center, and reassessed my strategy.
Moral of the story is this is what you get for building a staircase instead of just using the rope. If I shoot, it just might get a lot worse. That's kind of the problem. And my backup ammo is on that roof. Gee, I don't even know what to say. Like, how did they... What happened? Could try and get a car and just run a lot of them over. It probably would work, but it comes with their own risks. And I don't have the fuel, it's on the roof.
So for now, I went for the less optimal but safer strategy. With my axe, I started chopping through the hordes on the street level. For the most part, this was pretty manageable. But from my view of the higher floors from earlier, it was clear that the real problem would be getting to the building itself. I continued to clear through what undead I could on the ground, making my way closer and closer to the entrance. And after enough time clearing through the excess hordes on the ground, I felt that the roof must finally be clear enough to return. And on top of that, my fire axe had just broken, meaning that I would have to get back to the roof and go inside that tiny death trap where I had left all my fire axes. Not the best place to leave them, to say the least. This would be my big attempt, my final attack to take back the roof, to reclaim my property.
But even if I can get in the room for a second and get an axe, I'll be able to clear what's up here. What if I land on him? What happens? Nope, that's death. That's how you die. That would be the death of me. And so now I have a problem because now the heli's only going to start hitting the heli. Okay, checks out. Checks out. Just appear out of nowhere, why don't you? It sure would be convenient if I could just hit them. I need to heal my hand now.
Okay, that would be my penultimate attempt, is what I was trying to say. But now I knew the landscape. I knew how many were there. The state of the roof. Yes, you might say I now had another hand wound and fighting with an axe would be almost impossible. But no, I had to take back this roof. I would not give up.
Oh my god, I've got it. Hold on. I'm beginning to believe. Can I block that somehow? Build a wall at the top of it, maybe?
I gathered the nails and planks from the ground, enough to close up the gap. I was moments away from reclaiming my space. This was it, my final triumph.
Oh, there's more. Yeah, it's a lot more. Awesome. Awesome. Dude, some big hits would be really nice right now. Don't come around the corner. Don't come around the corner. Jump through the window. Oh my god. Okay, cool. Cool. I can't even fight with this anymore. Oh, I think this is cooked, man.
I was exhausted. Brutalized. 2 more arm wounds. I couldn't fight anymore. This was over. I had failed.
Cool. Cool. I may be infected. I have an ampule. So that is not the worst case scenario. What is the worst case scenario is my base is absolutely violated. I have like 6 injuries on my arms, which are the only tools I have. And yeah, this one's going to be a pretty tough one. The rooftop fortress is dead. It's gone. Every bit of what made it a rooftop fortress has failed. And I have failed. And this, look, we can look at it any way we want to. The way I look at it, I've been pretty lucky in this adventure thus far. To not run into any serious failures and to be, you know, on the good side of some of these things. And I've killed 4,700 zombies. I'm pretty due for a big loss. And this one hurts. But it was all a means to an end. The rooftop fortress is a means to an end because I needed the rooftop fortress so that I could... Anyway, I don't know what I was saying, but the moral of the story is this is absolutely cooked and it's mostly my fault. I failed, man. There's no nice way around this. This is a big failure. My ego was too big. I thought one wall, no barricades on the windows. It'll be fine. There won't be that many. Worst case, they'll come across the bridge. Oh, there were that many. And they came right up the stairs and they knocked my walls down. I have failed in every sense of the word. And I'm gonna need to take some time back at the airport to heal all my wounds. And then I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna finish what I started and I'm gonna take that skyscraper. But it's gonna take some time, man. I'm absolutely cooked. I have numerous injuries on my arms. I'm in pain. I'm at breaking point. I'm soaked. and I have lost control of my rooftop fortress. Yeah, things are pretty bad.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you aren't in my Discord, you probably don't know, but this video would have been out a lot sooner if my hard drive didn't go bye-bye. So I appreciate all your patience. Hopefully I'll back up my data next time. Oh, and by the way, make sure to join my Discord if you haven't already. Link is in the description. A final thank you to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Don't forget that new and returning players on PC and console can claim their bonus pack today, giving you multiple premium vehicles, an exclusive vehicle decorator Eagle of Valor, 100,000 Silver Lions, and on top of all that, 7 days of a premium account. This offer is available for a limited time only, so use the link in the description to play for free today on PC, console, and mobile devices.